Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. Welcome to this week's installment of This Week's in Svelte. And I've been tasked with running the show a second time, hosting from Tokyo. My name is Martin Krishna Pucha. You may know me as Gregor Felzer from the Svelte Discord. Today's agenda, uh, it- we are continuing the interactive changelog. We'll see how long we can keep that up. Then we'll try implementing a simple to do in Runic Svelte 5, and then we can have a Q&A session. For those of you joining us live, we will be collecting questions from YouTube chat for both the changes from last week and today's Runic to do. Questions will be answered the after the live coding session, basically. All right, so let's get started with the changelog. So, a lot of fixes in the last week, but the biggest change by far was the feature where you can now bind value to an input with a dynamic type. So prior to this, in both Svelte 3 and 4, Svelte would complain if you change the type dynamically and also bound the value, because the problem is it can't be sure what type the value of the input will be. Because let's say you changed it from a text to number, then it wasn't sure what the type would be. But this was a limitation of the approach used in Svelte 3 and 4, where the reactivity was entirely compile time. So we can't track changes. We can't really track changes to the type of the field in real time. But now that Svelte 5 is doing not just compile time reactivity, but also runtime reactivity, this is very much doable. You can see here. So here we have a regular password field. Let's type quick round fox. So we know the current password is quick round fox. Normally in Svelte 3 and 4, you would have to implement this with some workarounds. Like, it's not entirely impossible, but you have to do actions, or you could do an ugly if else block where the entire input was, you have two separate inputs. One was the password, one was the text field. But here you can just toggle. And in fact, here, all the toggle is doing is just toggling a boolean. Reveal password equals not reveal password. So here, reveal password is just a boolean state, and password input type is a derived, which just determines whether the text field, whether the input field should be a text or a password field. And we can toggle that back and forth and back and forth. So that's been available since next 66. We're on next 69 now. Everything else has been mostly uh, fixes, aside from one more notable change being in snippets, you can now do this. Yes, arbitrary call expressions and optional chaining for snippets. That's a bit more complicated, so we might revisit that another time. The other cool thing is this. I didn't include this initially because it would get in the way, but the other cool thing is we now have reactive dates. So import date from Svelte reactivity. And this creates a cool date that you can add or subtract it. So this is effectively a state, and you can work with it. Let's look at the current status of date. So we can create a new date. Let date equals new date. I think it's new date. Date. Yeah. Okay. This is the current time when we first initialized the date. Of course, when I recompile, it'll renew the date. So what can you do with this that you can do with the regular data object? Because obviously it just looks like a regular data object. Well, one cool thing you can do with this is you can do math with it that isn't just adding Unix timestamp seconds or milliseconds. So let's see how you can do that. So you can do some of the things you can do, get seconds, for example. So this would show when the time was initialized, it's 34 seconds past the minute. And then get minutes. It's 7 minutes past the hour. So let's see, get seconds, get minutes, and then you can of course get hours as well. I think this goes up to what did it go up to? Weeks? Is it weeks or days? I think get days. Get day. Get day. Get day is rather is like the day of the week, and then we have one more, which is. Do we have one more? I think we do. Yeah, get time. So get time is the Unix timestamp in milliseconds. So if you look at this, you can also do arithmetic with it. So let's say date dot, let's say set minutes. Pick a button. Add second. Unclick. Date dot set seconds. And right, we want to group this into a nice. There you go. And date set seconds. And if I remember correctly, it's just date get seconds +1. Yep. And you don't need to add your own wraparound because this will work fine. Let's add it until 59. 59, add 1 more second, 10. And of course that works with any of the other units. So add minute, minutes, minutes, add a minute, add a minute, add a minute, add a minute. So very nice. You can divide this by 1,000 just so that it's clearer that it's it's counting in milliseconds. Okay. And you can also, of course, do it with the hours. Since it stops at hours, if you want to add a day, of course, you can just add 24 days. 24 hours to add a day, and that will work just fine. So set. In fact, here let's instead of doing set hour, let's do set minutes by 60, and that works just as well. And of course, it wraps around for the date. And yeah, so that's a cool new feature in Svelte reactivity. It's a reactive data object you can play around with. And now to the live coding session. Well, we were already in the live coding session, but we can swap to a different live coding session. Okay, let me just swap to my other screen. And it is the Runic to-do. Where are you? Runic to-do, Runic to-do. Svelte 5 change logs, Svelte 5. Okay, it's still called Svelte 5 preview. Okay, here you go. Here we are in well, regular to do. You can adopt an owl, get owl feed, and feed the owl. And this works with keyboard. And you can of course remove as well. If you remove the item, it refocuses back to the list. And it is also accessible. It has ARIA announcer here, live description. I will link to this playground later. Yeah, actually, I can link to it now in the chat. I will link to the chat so you can play around with it as well. I hope YouTube doesn't mangle this. Worst case, we will add this to the description under the YouTube video below. But let's hope YouTube chat can also. Oh, okay, it does cut it off. Yeah, okay. Yeah, let me swap to the screen. So, yeah, okay. It doesn't look like sharing the link will work without a link shortener. That's unfortunate. I'll just delete the comments. Yeah, maybe when we get a full, a proper REPL implementation with the Svelte 5 release, hopefully, fingers crossed, we won't need to do that. But yeah, so for now, let's reset the to-do. We have the stuff to do. Either you've done everything on the list, so this is the empty state, or there are still things to add to the list. Add your first to-do, adopt now, get owl feed owl. Yes. So then, because this works with keyboard navigation as well, we can adopt the owl, we can get owl feed. Maybe we decide, okay, maybe it's not time to feed owl, so we'll remove it. And it's the tab navigation is exactly where you would expect it to be, which is the outside of the list, and you can tab back to creating a new to-do. Let's say get another owl. I don't know what you're doing with so many owls, but hey. Anyways, so I wrote this in VS Code. Let's see if we can zoom this a bit. Yeah, so that's why there's like stuff you can't actually get any type hinting in the REPL, but that's why there's this type def. The ID is just a crypto random UU ID. The description, so that's not really important. It's just to make sure that each to-do has a unique ID, and the other one is just whether it's completed or not. Live description is an area description that will be read out to the user if they are using any screen readers or the like, or extensions that can support the ARIA readers. So here you can see div role status area live polite. Area live tells the reader what kind of tone to use with the text to speech. And then there's the visually hidden class, which means this is not visible inside the output. Here you can't see where it is, but it will be part of the DOM anyway, and it doesn't use display none because display none will also remove it for the screen readers. So visually hidden is a bit ugly. It does this position absolute and then makes it a 1px by 1px rectangle on the top left of your window. It's not really visible, but yeah, that's roughly how most people implement it. But we can temporarily get rid of the visually hidden class. Let's just name it dash visually hidden, and let's see, visually hidden class. It is under the form, I believe. You could move it into the form. Oh wait, I think I also ARIA live polite. live description. Oh, yes, because there is no live description. So adopt an owl. Adopt an owl has been added, so you can see it's not visually hidden anymore. And then here we can see adopt an owl removed. I just realized I did not implement striking through the to-do list now as an ARIA action. It doesn't do anything right now, but it's very easy to do that right now. Let's do that right now. So when we toggle the checkbox, we want to be bind checked, but so probably the only issue here is that because bind checked is a binding rather than like a function you're calling, we can't intercept that. But what we can do instead is an effect. Let's see. So let's use an effect. Whenever the bind of changes. So let's say to do completed. To do dot completed. Actually, let's see. What's the easiest way of doing this? We could also just use an event. It's not too big of a deal. So on change, and then live description. If description equals let's see, if it's checked to do dot completed, then live description you want it to be to do description completed. Otherwise, no longer complete. So there are two reasons why you might not want this. So let's go back here. Adopt now. So one, when you check it, this will attract the attention of the screen reader. So within the context of a to-do list, it might be more appropriate to just leave the default, hey, you checked this to do, rather than using your own completed, and in this case is no longer complete, because checkboxes are already a naturally accepted input type for screen readers. So this is actually unnecessary work, but it's there if you want to do it for some sort of other checkbox that doesn't have a label for whatever reason. So here this is already inside a label, so this will already say, hey, your to-do item, in this case adopt an owl, has been checked. And so here there's not many difficult parts. Of course, it's just state, this is just state. But you can see it's a lot clearer to someone who hasn't been working with the code base from day one, where you have state and where you have derived values. Because in Svelte before, you would have just like let blah equals this, and it's not necessarily clear to someone new to the code base that, hey, this is actually a reactive value. Or in Svelte, in Runes mode, this is of course not a reactive value. This is just a normal string. Whereas here as well, derive tells you, hey, this is actually, these should be const. Const derived, because you're not supposed to reassign to them. And const valid and invalid, this is just a nice thing. Of course, you can just use not valid, but it's nicer to have the classes um, or the disabled rather tied to the invalid status rather than doing not valid. It's valid, but it's much more readable to do this, and it doesn't really cost you anything. Let's see. ARIA checked. So the problem with ARIA checked is it's a newer, if I remember correctly, ARIA checked. Let me just highlight that question. Martin Wellen asks, ARIA checked would work. The problem with ARIA checked is like it's a newer ARIA value, ARIA tag rather. So not all screen readers support it. So that's why I opted to do the live description and just the making use of the regular checkboxes, because a lot of screen reader functionality already following semantic HTML practices before ARIA was implemented. Um, and so they can already read those kinds of changes to the checkbox, to the area live status. Area live is an older one, so that's fine. So it's not that ARIA check wouldn't work. It's just that you will need to check your user base. ARIA checked or not, because I'm making a hypothetical showcase of runes. I opted not to use ARIA checked, but definitely check with the users that are going to actually use your application, whether their device or software supports ARIA checked or other area accessibility tags. And I think, are there any questions regarding the implementation? I guess it's a bit hard because like the code's kind of huge, and I can't. Yeah, that's kind of zoomed out is a bit hard to read. I hope it's not too. Let's, okay, that's as big as I can get it without it splitting the space in half. So there's area labeled by what tab index -1 does is when you destroy the to-do item by clicking the X or so up and now, and when this button is pressed, obviously it was focused on this button before, but now you've destroyed it and it no longer exists on the list. So what tab index -1 does is, oh, okay, the list is now gone because you destroyed the last item on the list. So where should I go next for the tab focus? And the answer is this H1, which is the label for a section, is now the focus. And so after you destroy the last item on the list and you press tab, it goes back to the text box so that you can go type another one, adopt a tiger. This person really likes adopting strange animals. And maybe adopt a beaver or a platypus. And I think that's everything we have on our agenda today. Unless anyone has specific questions, I'll give chat around like 30 seconds because there's a delay between me saying that and chat hearing that. Unique to do. You can see a lot of the logic. It would be roughly the same implementation in Svelte 4 as well. So Bind is still there. Prevent default. The biggest changes are probably just instead of on click, you do on click. Instead of on colon click, you do on click. And of course, the state and derived. And you don't have to necessarily use a store to implement it. Okay, so I guess no questions for this week. And we're hoping to see you next week, possibly on the. Oh yes, there will be a playground run inside the description. Added right after. Actually, let me add. Let me see if I can add it live to the description. Yes. Okay. So, runic to do. The description shouldn't mangle the link, because it worked last time, and the dynamic line types as well. Let me see. So the date stuff, date playground, and the dynamic line types. Oh well, the dynamic bind type. I already changed it to the date playground, but it's very easy to replicate. So I'll replicate it later and add that to the description, or either the comments or the description. I'll see. And save changes. How can I make the task item as a child component using the state? So let's go back to the runic to-do then. So initially this was actually going to be multiple components. Then I realized it was more convenient to show off as a single file for the purposes of this week in Svelte. So the item, let's see. So there are several considerations you would want to make when you split it off into, let's say, an item.svelte. First of all, who's in charge of creating the new item? Because you could argue that, okay, the item.svelte should have control over that, but you could also argue that, okay, no, that's an app level concern, and I want that kind of code to live in app.svelte. So let's argue, okay, it should live in the app.svelte. Item.svelte is just our item part of the component. So let me search here. Right, so an item is just an li. Let's move that over. And now we don't, of course, to do is an item. So normally in Svelte 4, you do export let to do, but let's do it in runes instead. Color props. Do equals props, and you can also type this in both JSDoc and TypeScript, so that it follows this type def. I will, in fact, I think I will just submit a repo for this right later, so that you can play around with the type defs as well, because the repo doesn't support that. Here, let's import the The import can happen either in the context module or the script. So the only reason we have context module here is because the type for the type def, you want that to be module level. If you put the type def here, then you can't import it from here. So if you want to do a type doc type import, of course it doesn't work here, but app.svelte.item. This only works if it's at the context script context module level, because effectively this is as if you did a export type and then this entire thing basically. So let's import item from item.svelte. Item to do is, in fact, just to do adopt an owl. Oh, right. Visually hidden is, of course, needs to be a global class now that it's no longer inside the owl. No longer inside app.svelte, and it works the same. Now, oh, but you'll see here, checking it no longer works. Why is that? Because we have this as to do completed but unchecked. So the way you would do this is, instead, you could do, well, there are several solutions to the problem, but you can, let's debug the JSON.stringify the to-do list. Oops. Wrong syntax. To undefined adopt now. You can see this does in fact change to completed. The problem is, oh, the style again, right? Where is it? Right, anything to do with the li has to be here. Up and now. And where was the checked? UILMT to do item checked. Add to do placeholder. Adopt an owl. There you go. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I'll go back and recall what happened. So this is with the items split out. We don't need the debug code anymore. Stuff to do. Stop now. Same thing works. So here, the only thing you do differently is you would use the props rune to accept to do, and you can see the code will look the same. I'll upload both versions, both the single file version and the version where you split out the items. Right, and also remove to do. Right now that doesn't work. That's good. We can do this. And item move to do. Actually, remove to do was, if I remember correctly, remove to do has to be remove All right, yeah. Okay, so call this remove to do on to do dot was it ID? I think it was using ID. Oh no, that was just item. So we could do that. And then it's just remove to do. Up and owl. There you go. Up and owl. And remove to do. This. Remove to do is not defined. Oh, I see. Because at the start it might not be defined. But it works anyway because point it's already defined. So yes, I'll upload instead of a repo, I think it would be better as a GitHub repo. So I'll have a GitHub repo as a SvelteKit project where you have two implementations. One being the app.svelte single file component containing everything inside, and the version where you split it into the app.svelte and the item.svelte. And I guess you could also split out the header and the input itself as their own components. But those are more simple to do. Like let's split out the input right now. Form felt. We need the add to do. So here, prevent default and then add to do. You would move to do desk as here. To desk is now here. Invalid is also part of that. Actually, we could just not move it and then just pass it down. To do desk valid as props. And import and now this doesn't work if I because we want to call add to do. So add to do. Add to do. We also need to give it invalid, valid, and to do desk. Up to now. To desk. Yep. Find value to do desk. Label visually hidden. Yes. Dropped invalid. Now we need to move the to-dos to the store. No, so actually there is one thing I showed last week, which is You could do something slightly cursed, which is this. Let's see. You could do. Let me see. Export add to do. I forgot how I did it last week. You could do some cursed stuff with the export ambassadors. Oh, that was for derive. Right. So it's not add to do that we need to worry about. It's actually invalid. Let invalid equals false. Actually, true. It starts at true. What const derive? Well, we could just swap it to not valid, I think. No. And now validity is oh wait, yes, because it's live coding sessions. Input invalid. Oh wait, I don't need invalid anymore. Valid. Oh. I think it would be simpler, yes. Oh wait, no, wrong one. To do desk. Valid. Invalid. What else did we need? I think add to do. Add to do is a prop. Valid is not defined. Is this warning in here? Valid. Oh yes. Passing anything except add to do. Dot and L. Yep. Yeah, that's much simpler. I don't know why I tried passing the to do disk. That's local state. I don't know why I tried to force it in global state in app state at app.svelte. I think the one thing it can't it now you have to change the logic a bit is now that add to do and to do disk are in separate files. Like you probably want to do this to do disk list to do disk reset inside input.svelte. So here dot now, so now it should reset. Why doesn't it reset? Form unsubmit. Oh, wait, no, it isn't. Up to disk. To do disk. Does it cancel afterwards? Live description. To do list new to do. What? I do this. unsubmit prevent default. It's already state, and it's even local state. Why is it not? Unsubmit set to do disk to empty string. Bind value to do disk. Get to do disk. Result. This is a form. That's right. Disk bind. Oh, let me guess. Is it still disabled? No, it's not disabled. Seems to be here. Yeah, all day. Oh, to-do desk is not defined. Huh? But it's right there. In fact, what are you accessing if add to-do desk? Description. So it was fine here, but then it's not defined. Oh, something else is not defined. Well, use remove state and use farm data, I guess. Oh well, I will debug this after the stream, since we're stretching it to like it's been like 30 minutes of just live coding. Okay. Sneak peek. Yeah. Partially, of course, it's because I'm coding under REPL instead of the VS Code. Like in VS Code, I can get a lot more type hinting intelligence, and figure out what's wrong easier, and also like the actual debuggers instead of console.log. But yeah, it's also partially because it's a new way of doing things, so you do need to wrap your head around it first when you are splitting out state. But I do think it is more explicit what's happening on submit. I guess it could be its own function now. Ah, that works. I guess that's an interesting. I wonder if that's a bug. That like you can't access the scope of. You no longer have access to do desk inside that submit scope. I'll have to see. That's kind of funky. Or is it because it's a. Or it was a this kind of function at the top. Ah. Huh. So if it's a proper function, it has access to do desk. But if we change it to something without this object, that doesn't work. That's kind of funny, but okay. I have a potential bug to file later. Even in VS Code, some of the errors are esoteric. It looks good now. It just needs to work, and everything should be made compatible with it. Yeah, there will need to be some work on library UI library side, but we're hoping it should be minimal. Yeah, and then functions aren't scanned, I guess. Yeah, it's probably you could probably see the difference in the JS output, right? Like either it's I think it is scanned. It's just that like it hoists it up to a. Oh yeah, see, like no, it should already be. Yeah, 2 desk is already defined there. I'm not sure why that's no longer valid. Huh, I'll have to take a look. Anyway, thank you very much for staying with me today for roughly an hour. Um, is it randomly cause us on submit versus on submit? So no, here either way we're doing the on submit. The difference was only just whether it was a function or an arrow function or a full function. So this was the question: is it randomly cause on submit versus on submit? Yeah, I don't think it should work just because. Dot. Yeah, on sub like using on submit versus on colon submit doesn't really change the fact that the arrow function breaks. Doesn't work as expected, basically. All right, thank you very much for today, and I don't know if I'll see you next week or Paulo will see you next week. We'll see how the schedules line up. And then outro. Bye bye.